It just never starts itself. I forgot to turn it off yesterday.
A couple ice cubes to pick up.
I know, it's just annoying that it doesn't stop itself.
We have ice though. Oh, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
At least it works, right?
Yeah, it does work. Is this yours? I forgot to run this last night. It's okay.
That's okay.
We'll run it after breakfast.
When you leave, I'll turn it on, okay?
Okay. Morning. How's everyone doing? Getting down to the end of this collagen powder. What happened, Amanda? Why, Shirley? Why would I tell you that? Oh no, that's not good. That doesn't sound fun at all. You could take the secret boyfriend method and just review yourself all fives because they're gonna fight with you anyway.
What?
She said it's self-review time at work.
Yeah.
I said that she could take the you approach. What are you eating? I guess that's the question, right? Corporate America has beat me this year. Oh dear. What does that mean? Morning, Claire. I had a sandwich, now I'm having cheese and crackers. That sounds really lovely. I would like a sandwich and cheese and crackers. This cup is telling me to discover history's darkest secret. Ooh. Good art. Hey, Des. It's that time of year, isn't it? My husband had his last week. Yeah. I saw a video last night that was a video of a girl getting laid off. And she fought the people laying her off, and it was the first time I think in my entire life that I actually felt the phrase "these kids are too entitled." Yes, getting laid off sucks, but she like literally argued with them as they were firing her. I was like, if someone's decided to fire you, I don't know that arguing with them is gonna save the sitch. It was weird, and everyone in the comments, yeah, exactly. Like, it was a wild video. I was in shock. I was like, I don't think this is helpful behavior, actually. Like, these people are not at fault here. You know what I mean? Like, it was weird. It was like she was taking her anger out on the wrong people. Yeah, exactly. It was very strange. I saw that video and I was like, I don't, if you're getting fired, why would you even want to stay? Yeah, I mean, why would you want to stay? But beyond that, it was like a company that was having like massive layoffs, and she's like angry at the HR people for not being able to like tell her about her performance. It's like, babes, this is a layoff. Everything sucks for everyone. You're only just being a bitch to these people for no reason. Like, these HR people are not at fault here. You know what I mean? They're not the cause of your layoff. Get mad at the CEO, get mad at the system, you know, take to the streets if you want, whatever, all that stuff. Of course it isn't HR's decision, yeah. Well, right, but like just... Right, but also these poor people were definitely, you could tell, these people were not the deciding factor in her firing, you know. But like, someone has to do it, you know, and you're just, I don't know. It just felt, it was the first time, yeah, getting mad at the symptom rather than the cause. Right, exactly. I've never been the type of person that was like, oh man, kids are so entitled. But I looked at her and I was like, oh, you clearly haven't had a job before if that's how you're acting. Like, you know, how are you? You don't know how anything works, and you're also not going to get hired with that. Like, if that's the behavior that you put out, now that has gone viral, you're effed. Like, she's screwed. How is she going to get another job? If anyone Googles her and her name is in it, like she says her full name in the video, and it's tagged. Like, I was like, you're dumb. It's over. The internet's forever. Now you're never going to get another job. Like, it was crazy.
Are you a small business owner or a good boy?
Right? I don't know. Like, it was just wild.
I saw that a while ago.
A while ago?
Yeah.
Maybe we're thinking of two different ones.
No, we're looking at the same one.
Really?
I saw that like weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. We're talking about.
That was pretty funny. I mean, from a from the perspective you're talking about, yeah, it's bad, but I thought it was funny.
I mean, it was just insane that she like cut them off and all this stuff. I was like, that's not a good look. I don't know. It bugged me. I saw it yesterday and I was like, wow.
It's been going around for a while.
She didn't even give them a chance to finish their sentence. I was like, okay, I get that you're, that you're all this stuff or whatever, but I don't know. You can be mad and be polite. There's been a bunch of the same situations. I think they'll go viral and never have to work again. That's not going to be good enough, you know? That's definitely not going to happen. They're not going to go viral and never have to work again. They're gonna be stuck. We're coming into the slime room for book club today because Secret Boyfriend is about to have a meeting. Oh, I got to shut the door. Yeah, it's going to go viral for the wrong reasons, that's for sure. Everyone in the comments of that video, though, are like, on her side, and I'm like, I don't know, man. It doesn't seem. Whoa. What is happening? Oh, I did something wrong. What did I do? Swipe left. Oh my gosh, that was so weird. The whole screen was just covered in ginormous comments for a second. Oh my god, that was really. That my brain didn't like that. And it was like, swipe left to close. And I was like, to close what? To close what? Yeah, no, sorry. I don't do the appropriation thing. I am multiracial, but Black history is not one of my histories. We got a remix version of Sasha repeating over and over. You did. Whoa. Although I do honor my friends who are both African, Black, and a mix thereof. I'm just not one of them. I'm only Middle Eastern. That's my only person of color. Although some people would consider Italians people of color back in the day. Not anymore. Now we're very, very white, but back in the day they did think Italians were. If you saw my grandma, maybe you'd think that too. Who sells Mary Kay? You are, Brittany. You are white. Yeah, we are, Des. We are. Oh, that's funny. Amish white. Whoa, you're like make a quilt white. That's funny. That is funny. I love it. I love every bit of it. That's pretty cool. Amish make some cool stuff. They have some weird, long story short, someone I know who's going to have a hard time getting hired post-grad. Ugh. I would like to know how to make a quilt. I have a scent called Amish quilt, and I also have a scent called Amish bread, cinnamon bread. Yeah. I'm 30% Australian, but I don't claim my family there. You are, Des? I didn't know that. I did not know that. Did not know that. I'm forever going to refer to myself as make a quilt. You should, because I don't think there are other cultures that do that. Oh my goodness, I made what I think is the most gorgeous dragon quilt. Will you share a photo with us? I want to learn to make a quilt. Holy moly, I just started pouring. I know, it's so rainy. It's so rainy. When do I use whose versus whose? Who with the apostrophe is possessive. Who's here is the with the E. Like, oh, who all's here? That's how you can think of it. Who's here? And then whose is it is the apostrophe. Whose cup is that? Is the apostrophe. Does that help? I hope that helps. My dad from Melbourne. What? I did not know that, Des. You're Polish. You should do the DNA test. I've been using it. Am I wrong? I got it backwards. Oh, oops. All right, I'm wrong. I'm willing to be wrong. Thank you. How is it?
I think it's good. Oh, I mean, I haven't really tasted it, but I'm sure it's good.
I didn't taste it, but I think it's delicious.
Well, I know the ingredients. It's good.
Oh, I flipped it. All right, it's the other way, Grace. Sorry. This is delicious. Very peanut buttery.
Enjoy story time.
Enjoy your meeting. All right, sorry, Grace. So I actually think that's counterintuitive, and I think that English got it wrong. But yeah, I guess so. But that doesn't really. I ordered lunch, and we should ask Cindy. Cindy's an editor. But I actually, isn't that confusing? Because apostrophe S is always possessive the rest of the time. Why have I forgotten how this works? I think English got it wrong with this one. Who is here? I hate it, you guys. I hate it. I'm willing to accept that I'm wrong, but I don't have to like it, right? My tutor got to know everything. You don't use a UK grammar. Interesting. Interesting. Why can't I remember this one? I feel like that's one that I should have been able to know. All right. My hair appointment is on Friday evening. It's a long time away, and I have to get all the slime done before then. Will I implode? Possibly. Did I have a mental breakdown this morning? Yes. It is tomorrow. Yes, the appointment is tomorrow, and I need to finish all the slime orders before. What are you doing with your hair, Jen? Oh my God, it's so windy out there right now. Wild. Wild, wild, wild. Whom? All right, you're doing neon pink. Oh my gosh, share pictures, will you, Jen? I love pink. Oh, I know this comes as an absolute shock to all of you, but neon pink hair is on my list of things. Whoomst! I love it. Okay. In case anyone, my mental breakdown was last night because T-Mobile broke my account and got all the phone. I love the pink hair in your photo, Amanda. Will do. I've been doing bright red, but I'm growing it out. Fair. Just so everyone knows, with this book, there's no real being behind, which is great because it's a collection of essays. So even if you miss one day, it's not like you're gonna miss part of the story because they're all kind of self-contained. So that's really useful for everyone who's in book club because like if you accidentally miss one of the days, you don't feel like you're just like, oh no, what have I done? You know, kind of situation. Does that make sense? All right, so this is called Back in the Daybed, which is, you know, there's 6 people on my account too. It was so bad. That is horrific, Cindy. I also would have had to break down with that. Y'all, my friend hired me to make a bowl for her and I'm attacked. It's so beautiful. I can't wait to see it. A bowl? Make a bowl. Yes. When I think of the mascot of my childhood, I think of the daybed. To me, daybeds are a piece of millennial iconography, true. While they still exist, something about their style back then was so squeaky specific that it's something I genuinely miss. Before Pert ever made 2-in-1 seem like a plus, a daybed was a 2-in-1 piece of furniture popularized in the 80s and 90s that was undeniably plush. A twin bed masquerading as the world's least practical couch. A daybed is an upscaled futon with big Laura Ashley energy that you'd often spot your friend that you'd often spot at your friend Laura or Ashley's house. It's too real. It's too real. It was roomy, but still only slept one person comfortably. It had 2 jobs, but only did one well. It was supposed to be cozy despite being made of cold, hard metal rods. I could never quite figure out how to enjoy the couch feature when 3 sides of the bed were lined with spaced middle bars that did not make for comfortable backrest. But, to be fair, it would have made for a lovely outdoor gate. All that aside, the fact that I slept in a twin-size daybed until I was 18 is kind of fitting. As a person who always had trouble sleeping, nights were more like days for me in terms of activity level. While I assume most people associate their bed with sleeping, I associate mine with being wide awake. Most nights at home, I would make my own fashion shows, music videos, or fantasies for as long as I could get away with having the lights on. Sometimes I wonder if my love for pop culture comes from always having difficulty falling asleep and therefore needing to occupy myself in my room. I clocked many awake hours in bed reading, writing, listening to music, or browsing a J14 magazine so I could lust after the brothers from Home Improvement who all had 3 names: Zachary Ty Bryan, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and Taryn Nolan Smith. Do we think 3 names are a prerequisite to be on the show? In case you guys don't know, 3 names is sometimes a prerequisite for being very well known in Broadway. There was a time period in the early aughts where all the popular Broadway people had 3 names. And there's a reason for it, actually, and it's probably the same reason that these guys have 3 names. And the reason is the union. So only one person can be in the acting union per name. So these kids probably put their middle names in their legal acting name because there was already someone with their other name. There was probably already a Zachary Bryan, a Jonathan Thomas, so they had to put their middle names in. Question: if a mod right now joined the Patreon, but the app... Wait, hold on. If a mod right now, I joined the Patreon on the web app, but it isn't recognized, any suggestions? I'm not sure what that means, Jules. I'm so sorry. I don't really understand the question. Can you clarify? I'm not sure what that means. Oh, you're asking if a mod would know the answer. Oh. Sorry, I just knocked down the... I subscribe to the monthly 100 level. I don't know what that means. What's the monthly 100 level? I don't know what that means, honey. I'm sorry. I don't have a... Are you talking about the $100 level on the Everything is Awesome level? I see. If you've subscribed to that level, you'll start getting perks from that today. It's February. It's a new month. If you're having issues with the app, hey Persona, I would reach out to Patreon, but the fact that it's working on the web means that your account's okay. New membership will start right away and you'll start getting your perks right away. It's great. Thank you for joining. We're so happy to have you. You'll start getting slime in the mail probably in a couple of days. I'm mailing out a lot of the monthly slimes. I mailed some yesterday, actually, more are getting mailed today. Oh yeah, no, you don't have to worry at all, Jules. I actually already started mailing out a lot of the slime of the month, so I just go down the list. I actually do them in order of, when I go through the monthly slimes, I pull up the list of each membership and I do it in order of signups, because that way people who have signed up later, like I give them a little more time so that I make sure that I get those. The thing about this month is I don't have to do that because I actually turned off signups for all the other levels for this month. So, it's not a problem this month. I don't have to worry about people signing up later because there's no open spots. But I think I did see your name, Jules. I think you popped up yesterday actually on that. But yeah. It's not a problem anymore. All right. So anyway, that was my long diatribe about why they probably have 3 names. So was it a prerequisite to be on the show? No, but it was probably a prerequisite to join the union, is probably what it was. I also devoted a few too many hours to pretending to be a 90s supermodel or getting lost in my own movie makeover montage, learning from movies and TV that I could no longer be a before if I wanted to find my happily ever after. And it's got one of the little symbols on it telling us there's going to be an aside. Otherwise, I'd lie awake balancing a flashlight at the expense of my penmanship, hoping that if I drained my head of my thoughts, I'd get some rest. Famous murderers also seem to get the 3-name treatment. Creepy. For a not as good reason though, right, library? All right, so that was that piece, and now we have a little aside that's called So Random, Slay All Day Bed. It's very funny. All right. Writing about how formative entertainment was for me in my childhood is tricky because pop culture is much too broad of a term relative to what I had access to. To provide an example, my world was a level of insular that resulted in me being introduced to icon slash legend RuPaul's body of work via bargain bin soundtrack to the Brady Bunch movie, since VH1 was off limits at first. You guys want to know the first time I ever saw RuPaul? Because I was literally like raised under a rock. I did not see RuPaul for the first time and like clock RuPaul for the first time until Top Chef. RuPaul was on one of the very, very early seasons of Top Chef as a guest like judge for an event, and I have that memory seared into my head. I know exactly which episode and exactly what the challenge was, but I was raised under a rock, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that RuPaul wasn't out there. I'm just saying that I just never saw, because I was raised in such a legit religious home, I just never saw stuff like that, you know? You didn't know who he was till Drag Race. Did you also grow? I guess it's just an immigrant home different than religion, right? Is that what it is? I was also under a rock living in Utah. Oof, that's even worse, Lane. That might be worse. Might be, maybe. Hard to say. Maybe they're equally bad. At least I was in California, so I had some stuff. I don't know. Utah might be worse. Same, but not for religious reasons. Really, Cindy? That's interesting. I lovingly blame RuPaul for why my room was always a mess, with clothes strewn across my bed and floor, playing with outfits in a manner that was fueled by the normalization of the chaotic makeover and fitting room montages in movies, first simulating the iconic scene in Clueless to the tune of Supermodel, but I found my own sunshine day after I put the Brady Bunch CD into a 3-disc changer. I heard track 9, Supermodel, You Better Work, by RuPaul, the premiere anthem for pretending to be inside a movie makeover scene. Long before a remake scored the Lizzie McGuire movie, I'd take the trundle out of my bed to serve as a makeshift bedroom catwalk and give my best Linda, Naomi, Christy, Cindy, Claudia, and Nikki to flimsy floor-length mirror. I don't know what that means at all. Utah's a rock. It's hard not to. I really only watch things like that. Oh. You having an issue with your order? Okay, I mailed your order yesterday, Haley, so hopefully everything's okay, but if it's not, we can get it fixed either way. But I did put your stuff in the mail yesterday. I DM'd you about it also, Haley. Next Top Model. Oh no, I know what the trundle is. I just didn't know Linda, Naomi, Christy, Cindy, Claudia, and Nikki. Who are they? They're models. See? I didn't know. I was enamored with supermodels back in the day, wondering, there you go, there's your answer, wondering what it would be like to submit photos to esteemed institutions like Barbizon or John Robert Powers. I remember basking in the glow of the limelight when my sister Kelly was chosen to model in the limited to window at the mall, and I thought it was her big break. We've since learned this gig was more like an early MLM, conning young women into attaining their Nikki Taylor dreams by wearing untailored elastic shorts under the guise of girl power to perform free labor for a small discount while drawing all your friends into the store. But what's an aspiring model to do? RuPaul told me that I better work, and if that meant performing child labor in exchange for a tepid discount, so be it. Your message is on Patreon, Haley? But you should also have an email with your tracking number, too. Did you check your email? Because you definitely should have that. I definitely did your order yesterday, Haley. I remember for sure. Did you put your email in correctly? Because 100% your order's been done. I know your address. Like, I know your whole thing. Yeah, I can look it up later, Haley, but I 100% did your order. So if you didn't get the email, that must mean that it was put in incorrectly. That would be the problem. But I did see it. I never got asked to model at the mall or an American Girl fashion show or ever at all. But I think I look back fondly on make-believe movie makeover montages because I did this before I felt self-conscious about how I looked. I feel grateful there was a time I could joyfully tear through a tornado of outfits for sport and not out of spite. When RuPaul sings, "It don't matter what you do because everything looks good on you," I believed it, and I felt like I could take on the world, or at least my room. A sleigh all-day bed, if you will. A sleigh all-day bed, if you will. Mary, all the slime is gone. The restock was last night. Of course, now I realize that drag terminology didn't belong to girls like me doing a sachet Shantae while trying on a twin set at Kohl's, but I thought that RuPaul's start was on the B side of a critically acclaimed movie soundtrack in the bargain bin at Hollywood Video. That's pretty funny. I had yet to learn many important lessons. I also loved daybeds because they were like the nesting dolls of bedroom furniture. Many had a twin mattress called a trundle that you could pull out from underneath if you had a friend over, and they pretty much served as the guest bedroom of childhood. The daybed was squeaky. The trundle bed was like the daybed squeakle because it was louder and still not as loud as the nights of endless laughter had with friends on them. But gossiping about classmates, dreaming about our future, and talking about the meaning of life, well, I don't have kids yet, so I don't know what the vibe is these days, but I still believe these functions are where life happens, more so than school, church, or any other activities. I appreciate the company that a sleepover with friends provided during these vulnerable years. I felt right at home among preteen girls who were similarly on a fact-finding mission to better understand the mystery of teenage and adult words. We'd acquire intel through a combination of media and culture we consumed. For example, magazines or movies during blockbuster runs, along with exchanging information we had recently gathered from loose-lipped older siblings, ideally about juicy topics like what it was like to lock lips with boys. Not being able to sleep was a less charming dilemma when at someone else's house. Long before I started Be There in 5, I spearheaded my first entrepreneurial venture at childhood slumber parties. The Up All Night Club, TNUANC. I remember a few occasions where I'd recruit friends or acquaintances at slumber parties in elementary school to sign literal back-of-the-napkin contracts with fresh Ticonderoga in a Mead notebook so they'd feel contractually bound to stay up and talk to me all night. There was nothing like sitting at a suburban kitchen table negotiating terms with elbows on a slightly damp, gauzy, disposable tablecloth, like a rebel without regard for gauze. I knew two things about myself from a young age. I have difficulty falling asleep, and I live for a top-notch heart-to-heart. I didn't want to stay up to play pranks or be deviant. I just knew the best conversations happened when everyone else went to bed. And if I didn't form these alliances over flat Dr. Pepper with extra cheese pizza, everyone else would snooze. Still, I'd be the one who would lose, lying awake against my will in a sleeping bag, overthinking the sounds of the floorboard or the ice maker in an unfamiliar home. I noticed the after midnight hours had yielded some of the most anxious moments of solitude in my life, along with some of the best conversations I've ever had. So I felt right to lock in some quality company via light paperwork. You know, kid stuff. Yes, we should definitely have an adult sleepover. I forged the deepest friendships with the girls I talked to all night. We talk about life, death, ghosts, bees, both spelling and killer, the boys, our future, the solar system, Mimi Siku from Jungle to Jungle. Mimi Siku from Jungle to Jungle, yes. There was never enough time to cover it all, but once we got under the covers, the world felt like ours for the talking. It's really funny. When I think about the small moments that taught me the important life lessons, I often think about how the differences between sleepovers and slumber parties allowed me to pathologize my introversion long before I took a Myers-Briggs test. Even though sleepover and slumber party are terms often used interchangeably, I believe there are notable differences. My personal definition is that a sleepover is a casual overnight stay with a small group of friends for no special occasion, and slumber parties were larger scale functions for special occasions that had a hodgepodge of the person's friends from the neighborhood, activities, church, and or classes. If that doesn't sound different enough to you, think of the fun you'd have drinking wine with your current 3 best friends versus the fun you'd have going to a bachelorette party for one of those friends. Ugh. Group size, friend variety, and focus on casual versus organized fun are 3 essential variables of a group hang, along with not inviting a friend who doesn't think analyzing group variables, doesn't like to do things like analyze variables of a group hang. By self-identifying as a person who lived for a sleepover, gets energy from small groups where observations are exchanged, likely to sleep on a bed, but not a slumber party where entertainers thrive, pranks are played, and invitations tell you to bring a sleeping bag, I was basically figuring out my introversion in an all-consuming desire for plush accommodations. Without knowing that was a thing, I just felt like a loser when I couldn't sleep at big sleepovers because groups, loud rooms, and pranks made me want to crawl into a hole. Same. That said, I still wouldn't have to crawl into a hole if that hole was at the end of the sleeping bag because I'm never interested in involuntarily indoor camping. This is the other big difference. At sleepovers, the chances are pretty high that you'll get a bed, trundle, or at the very least a semi-soft surface to sleep on. But slumber parties never had it in the bag for me when they expected me to sleep in one. My personal "if it doesn't fit, you must acquit" in the 90s was, if I don't get a bed, tears will be shed. But upon getting invited, you didn't want to call dibs or ask in advance like you're Ramona on Real Housewives. So, at sleepovers, I have many memories of lying awake on the floor, probably experiencing my first signs of anxiety long before I had the vocabulary to distinguish how it's different from butterflies or tummy aches. Though it could have been worse, I could have forced myself to sleep on a papasan chair. Papasan? Papasan? P-A-P-A-S-A-N? Papasan? I don't know. To this day, I find those turtle chairs to be uncomfortable. Sitting on one makes me want to take a long walk off a short pier. Imports, where I bought it. Oh, sure. A long walk off a short Pier 1 Imports, where I bought it. Papa as in dad. Papa-san. What the heck is it? The round chairs. Oh, I would have slept in one of those. That seems like a nice place to sleep. Don't you think? Maybe it's because I'm a cat and I could just curl up. I was only allowed to have one parent sleepover and I could never go over to friends' houses. I liked the one friend sleepovers better. That was my jam. While some of my best times were had at smaller scale functions, attending large slumber parties at the house of non-BFF classmates, some of my most vivid memories, even if not always pleasant, being somewhat nocturnal and staying at someone else's house you hadn't been to before felt incredibly disorienting, almost like going to an away game without your teammates. While these functions were where the entertainers of the world thrived, to be fair, they were a great subject for data collection for observers too. I had always been hyper-aware of details in people's homes and loved seeing classmates' inner worlds. Their family's general vibe would overtake you alongside the distinct smell upon walking in. Isn't it weird that long before we even got into diffusing signature scents, there was a detectable signature smell in everyone's home, and now yours has. That's some amalgam of olfactory sensations in a group of people's very existence, to the point that it permeates your clothing, and in my case, my childhood blankie, enough that you could smell it upon leaving, but the people who live there are entirely unaware of it. Mine is skewed because of slime, because anytime anyone walks in my home, they're like, "Oh, candy. Why does it smell like candy in here?" I'm like, candy and gasoline all over my house. I'm not proud of this, but I had the most fun at the types of households I'm not proud of this, but I had the most fun at the following types of households when sleeping over. The kids whose families had 1, minimal parental supervision, or 2, what I like to call FU, second fridge money. These are the places that I learned about the finer things and the subject matters above PG-13, and exposure to these families was formative to my personal development. Gaining access to technology or entertainment you didn't have private access to at home could be life-changing. One of the best parts of sleepovers and slumber parties was going to a person's house who was allowed to have the pinnacle of girlhood independence, a phone in their room. For prank calls, talking to crushes, privacy to gab with BFFs, and just the general mystique that came along with being reachable outside of school hours. Oh no, Becca, that does not sound good. I should have seen it coming that my future career would form a connection with people via my phone, because Kelly and I spent a great deal of time in the 90s suspecting that what was standing between us and a booming social life was phones in our rooms. I have butterflies even talking about the idea of getting a phone, or God willing, your own line in your room as a kid. Bells and whistles aside, the apex of a teenage landline experience was reached when Con Air came out with a clear phone that showed all its bells and whistles inside. You guys remember that? All the clear technology? So good. Outside of having the hots for Devon Sawa and Casper, it wouldn't be until bloggers went hard for Lucite ghost shares in the 2010s that I revisited my penchant for see-through goods. The other perk of a home with one of the two ideal setups, rich, low supervision, or both, is that it was the only way to experience the heyday of teen PG-13 movies before I was 13. From the qualitative market research I've gathered from my podcast audience, it seems semi-universal experience that at sleepovers, you were watching Grease, Dirty Dancing, or Scream. Wait, what? Oh, okay, it's got one of those little notes that there's going to be an aside about that too. Grease and Dirty Dancing were early tame sexual awakenings for many young millennials. I started to feel my chills also multiplying watching Baby and Patrick Swayze dance. Scream was a cult sleepover movie for reasons I do not know. Perhaps it was an early pipeline to millennial true crime fantasism. Oh, thank you. I had to come in here for today, Tiffany, because Secret Boyfriend has a meeting. Perhaps an early diagnosis for sensitive people like me who find the pranks of "Do you like scary movies?" phone call persuasion to be ground for dismissal from the UANC. I agree. I've actually never seen Scream all the way through. When I was at camp in 5th grade, before 6th grade, the kids started to watch Scream, and I was so scared that instead of stay with them in the rec room and watch it, I walked all the way back to the dorms in the dark alone just to get away from it. That's funny, Cindy. Me too. My lack of interest in true crime and tragedy was cemented by my siblings watching so much Unsolved Mysteries and Rescue 911, where I mostly learned one of two things were bound to happen to me. If I swam in a hotel pool, my organs would get sucked into the drain and I'd perish. Or, if I let curiosity get the best of me upon wanting dessert, I'd get my tongue stuck to the freezer and I'd have to call 911. When my mom would send me to my room to punish me, she would take my things out of my room so that I couldn't have that, Cindy. She would literally, there was one time when my mom locked my stereo in her own closet to punish me. I unlocked the door, took it out, and put it back in my room. Yeah, it's a good book. It's a good book. All right, we're back to another aside. This one is called So Random, Rule-Breaking Memory Making. I think movies like Dirty Dancing and Grease slip through the cracks of parental supervision because they're music-forward classics that are so ubiquitous, maybe even parents forgot how inappropriate they are for the PG crowd. I was obsessed with Grease and couldn't believe I went to an elementary school with a bunch of bugle boys when I belonged with a T-Bird. In retrospect, I'm not sure Sandra Dee was the best person to take cues from, as my core takeaway from that movie was that to get a boy's attention, I should fundamentally change as a person, wear all black, experiment with a bold lip, and develop a light nicotine habit. But I'm grateful for my parents who overlooked the ratings on the ratings to show us the classics. If my kids were interested in culture, I might do the same. That handful of times you let your kids break the rules, memories are being made. I've heard my brother talk about how one of his core memories is my dad waking him up in 1995 to watch Cal Ripken Jr. break Lou Gehrig's record of 2,130 consecutive games. Even though I hate sports, I have a soft spot for the father-son bonding over them. Similarly, I often warmly recall how my mom let me stay up late and watch my World Series finale, the last episode of Full House, scheduled to air after my bedtime. She saw my distress from the prior week's episode, a cliffhanger about Michelle's short-lived amnesia following her equine accident, and knew that I couldn't miss out. Whenever people use the figure of speech, get back on the horse, I'm assuming their parents didn't let them stay up for this episode. I never got on a horse again. Or think about when my Uncle Bill was babysitting me, and I'm guessing he wasn't up to speed on the age appropriateness of the latest movie, so he let me watch Clueless. I was about to say it was life-changing, but given that Clueless has come up 4 times, we're only in chapter 2 of this book, I'm sure you could have guessed it. Clueless was my homesick from school and grammar school movie. Like, I always watched it. I watched it over, that one and Fiddler on the Roof. I would just watch them on repeat if I was sick. I wasn't homesick from school often, but if I was, it was one of those 2 movies. Oh man, my Amazon return needs to be returned today. Ooh. You want to send it to the post office with me? I have to go to the post office today anyway, obviously. Guys, I'm gonna end myself. I'm never gonna do a restock this big again. It's too many orders. I don't like it. It's not fun for me. I had a mental breakdown. I peaked getting to spend time with Valley girls who made me feel understood. I remember thinking to myself, this is the best day of my life, when he later drove me to the mall in his white cabriolet, and it was then that I took my talents from A's and B's to wanting to chase mostly C's. California culture, Clueless, and convertibles were the life for me. Wind in my hair, I was Cher. I remember it all too well. Phones and movies were a litmus test for the ideal lower levels of parental supervision that made a person's house a good candidate for a sleepover, but other socioeconomic status symbols made an overnight feel like a luxury getaway. Keep in mind, my entire frame of reference is from interacting with my classmates in public school, middle and upper middle class suburbia. But in my experience, the families of the TV and phone in room persuasion were typically reserved for households that not only had ample American Girl doll furnishings, but also things like finished basements with big screens and giant sectionals, or a pool or trampoline, refrigerator that matched their cabinetry, and my personal favorite, a second fridge downstairs. There it is. I love the juxtaposition of Fiddler on the Roof and Clueless. Oh, that's my entire existence. I can be fully explained in the line, in the 90s, when I stayed home from school for grammar school, I either watched Fiddler on the Roof or Clueless. You're like, there it is. That's her. That's her in a nutshell, because I'm either the clueless person, or not clueless like I'm clueless like in the fandom of Clueless, or I'm a musical theater person. That's it. I only have 2 modes. I have 90s girl and I have musical theater girl. It's all me. Yes, it's quite the juxtaposition. You are right. Something about a second fridge tells me your parents probably let you watch The Real World, not mine, and you also might have spare fudgesicles or Luigi's Real Italian Ices lying around. I loved a freezer filled with those old Thin Mints and tongue-dyeing desserts like highly processed foods like kids' cuisine. Though I shudder thinking about how I really effed with my night watching TGI Friday when the hot pudding would cross-contaminate the corn. Like a yellow marker you accidentally dragged over black ink, once they mix, it's never the same. I'm also a person who needs a beverage with me at all times, and at the time, I was partial to a second fridge that was like a Fruitopia of beverages made from 1% juice, always tempting me to reach for the elegance of a Mystique bottle in the back that made it look like a second grader was drinking a wine cooler. I was not allowed to have those kid dinners. I always wanted them. I was always jealous of the kids who got them, but we did not have those in our household. I saw the commercials with the little penguin. Man, I wanted those kid cuisines. And my mom was like, absolutely not. Yeah. But maybe the mistake, like, I don't know if I've ever told you guys this. The first time I ever had boxed mac and cheese, I was in 5th grade at a sleepover. And same with, I think, Lucky Charms. I had them the next morning at the sleepover. I was like, what is this? We did not have that in our house. No. Those were not items that we stocked. But sometimes we had licorice for dinner. So, you do the math. But maybe the mystique of the second fridge wasn't as tied to socioeconomics or mystics as I thought. I think a lot of it was also about my anxiety and even asking friends for a drink or a snack. It was easier to swipe inventory from the fridge less opened. For some reason, nothing was more embarrassing to me than someone screaming upstairs, "Mom, Katie's hungry!" as I feared they'd stop inviting me over to their house because of the way that I used their Triscuits.
I love, and still love, the experience of being invited to someone else's home regardless of their socioeconomic status, of course. But I will say I live for a house that's meant to be seen and not lived in. You can tell a lot about a suburban mom by the shape of the tiny soaps in the powder room, and the fact that she even calls it the powder room. And if the towels you wipe your hands on have some confusing low absorption, yeah. I love how rich people can't seem to be bothered with terry cloth. They really go hard for a decorative towel. I didn't actually care how much money you had, nor understand money at all. I was just fascinated by the things that I saw on TV or in commercials, but never used. And it was fun to have friends who brought both Hot Wheels and Power Wheels to the garage. Although being friends with someone with a backyard pool or a trampoline was kind of like how it feels now when you become close friends with someone who has a beach house or a boat. Not everyone has the disposable income, nor has it in them to take on such a liability in the name of blissful recreation. But if you find someone who does, hold on tight. The other thing that stands out to me about slumber parties is how weird it was for minors to majorly dabble in paranormal activity or supernatural rituals for kicks. I don't know why anyone is surprised that a generation of young women like things like astrology, crystals, and the secret and manifestation, because we were raised by the guidance of Ouija boards, origami, fortune tellers, MASH, and magic 8 balls after spending afternoons in natural wonders. Many of the chants and rituals and games we played at slumber parties were also downright creepy. While most people, including me, blame diet culture for their body image issues, I also blame how light as a feather, stiff as a board didn't seem to work well on tall gals with bigger bones than everyone else. In retrospect, this exercise looked like a high-key pagan levitation ritual, and even though I hated the inadvertent body shaming, I will say I'm here for the preteen witch vibes. I also often think about the lyrics to weird chants or hand-slapping games that we did, like Miss Mary Mac Persuasion, that started out wholesome but then got an edgy agenda, like Miss Susie had a steamboat. You guys remember that one? Miss Susie had a steamboat, the steamboat had a bell, ding ding. It was basically an excuse to say curse words without saying the full word. Oh, she's got it written out here. Miss Susie had a steamboat, the steamboat had a bell, ding ding. Miss Susie went to heaven, the steamboat went to hello operator, please get me number 9. She stops it there, but if you don't know because you're young, the rest is, and if you disconnect me, I'll chop off your behind the refrigerator. There was a piece of glass. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'll stop now. So on and so forth. Maybe Miss Susie was also a fan of Track 9, Supermodel You Better Work. Songs like this, or There's a Place on Mars Where the Women Smoke Cigars and the Men Wear Bikini and the Children Drink Martinis, are interesting to revisit lyrically. My hypothesis is that we felt comfortable with creepily chanting in a hocus pocus forward America. A culture that was so pervasive that if you head to your nearest apple cider donut provider in autumn, you can find a millennial wearing a t-shirt that reads, "Amok, amok, amok," to this day. I'm convinced that we like Hocus Pocus so much because it was the only Disney movie that used the word virgin, and hearing that in a context outside of Mary at church was a real thrill. It added sexiness to the lore of the black flame candle that I carried into adulthood when I started lusting after $60 black diptyque candles to basically light money on fire. It's true. Expensive candles are just money lit on fire. Hocus Pocus might be why we felt comfortable in groups chanting or performing hand-slapping rituals, but since there were more than 3 of us, it was like making of an amateur choir that specialized in black magic. As if there was a Sanderson Sister Act 2, upon nightfall, we too would get back in the habit and perform weird rituals that made Bloody Mary or the Candyman as likely to be in attendance at a classmate's birthday party as someone named Jessica or Amanda. No offense, Amanda. What's a party like candle? Okay, random question, bro. How do we feel about stickers with curse words? We feel great about it. Just me? I guess I'm the wrong person to ask. It was terrifying as it was awesome. Not as awesome were the more dangerous games. My sister used to go to sleepovers where her friends would cross their arms, hold their breath until they briefly passed out. This is why I'm comfortable with my children being iPad kids. Leaving us to our own devices before we had devices was more of a medical risk than a character building exercise. For me, a happy middle ground of spookiness and good feeling was the game of concentration, where one person closes their eyes and people stand behind them and chant, "Concentrate, concentrate on what I'm saying. People are dying, children are crying, concentrate." I don't know that game. I think you could just have another page, Shira. Just like have a second page that says like, don't click here if you don't want to see dirty words. I don't know. The best part was if you were the person with your eyes closed, it was the nearest thing to a spa-like experience because your friend was behind you and they circled through a series of goosebump-inducing activities, starting with crack an egg on your head. I love that one. Crack an egg on your head, feel the yolk dripping down, and escalating to things like stab a knife in your back, let the blood run down. I do remember that. Graphic lyrics aside, I love this game because the yolk running down or the fake blood running down your back would be demonstrated by a sort of back scratching, soothing gesture. I'm nothing if not a slut for a back scratch. That's funny. There was a more casual crack an egg on your head version that would end on a less bleak note, dare I say a euphoric one. I still think often about the tight squeeze, cool breeze, now you've got the shiveries. I have the shiveries thinking about the kindness and safety and sisterhood that I felt with those close friends willing to do a round of egg-cracking shivers while sitting crisscross applesauce at a school assembly or a Girl Scout meeting. I hated sleeping on the floor, but I loved sitting on the floor. And if I can get my hair played with or my back scratched in the process, I'll hang on to your friendship tighter than if you had a second fridge. Yeah, don't be on the internet if you don't want to see curse words, that's true. There are many versions of these rituals/games/chants that vary geographically, but culturally, but typically they have the same melody. I miss these simpler times. I spend way too much time now trying to get my ducks in a row and wishing that I could play Quackdilioso, what I wouldn't give to be in a large group of women breaking for a snack. My biggest problem, trying to avoid speedy slap after we launch into and a 1, 2, 3 waterfall to our left. It was a slightly more mature, high-octane duck, duck, goose with less jogging. Depending on the regional coven, Quackadilioso had many variations throughout North America, often called Slapadilioso or Stella Eliola. Whoa, I've never heard that. I'm getting that I missed out on so much by being an outcast or having guys as friends. Oh no, Cindy, don't say it. I'd say it's one of the hand games with some of the most regional lyrics. Some of the most regional lyrical variability, though it usually starts out Quackadilioso, quack, quack, quack. In my Richmond, Virginia coven, we say Senorita, Rita, Rita, but in the Northeast, for example, some say Senorita, your mom smells like pizza. And I've also talked to people on the West Coast who said San Diego, ego, ego, among other endless variations. I wish these sweet and or spooky moments would be more associated with our legacy as millennials because I didn't just learn them at sleepovers. They usually started in places where girls from different schools and backgrounds would convene and exchange information. I learned the most of these hand clap games and chants in places like the YMCA, day camps, community after-school programs, and Girl Scouts. Most older millennials didn't have childhoods that were technologically interconnected, and I think this was an essential part of our exchanging our own form of folklore. I'm determined to get us all to remember the culture of connection we once cultivated in groups in the absence of speedy communication. Honestly, when I think about some of the darker stuff we were up to, it's a wonder that we haven't all gotten together by now and put a mild hex on some of these new outlets that feed into millennial stereotypes, given our witchy ways. Maybe something to keep in mind for the future as we creep towards financial doom we aren't responsible for. If the up all night club is good for anything, it's to prepare us for when we ride at dawn. If you bring the witches and wizards, I'll bring the bead lizards. In hindsight, the supernatural stuff we did at slumber parties was a little dark, but the bright spot for me was getting older and tightening our coven. When my closest friends and I would solve all the world's problems on daybeds, trundle beds, basement pull-out sofas, or bunk beds in groups of 2 to 6, depending on who was in the neighborhood, friend rotation, and who wasn't grounded that week, and find my friends of yesteryear being a pile of bikes at the cul-de-sac so I knew whose house we were sleeping at that night. We'd explore our range as we rotated between giving each other makeovers and talking about if we believed in God, and then choreographing dances to the Spice Girls songs in basements as much as we'd try to reenact the seance from now and then in someone's attic. True. All true. I had the most incredible childhood friends, and I still keep in touch with them. They had big personalities, high energy, in contrast to mine, but they always included me. If you ask my friends, they'd probably tell you that I had big, I don't know if this is a good idea, you guys, energy, often sitting out on pranks that were too much for my sensitive self. But they never ding-dong ditched my friendship and loved me for who I was. Plus, I loved being adjacent to the action and forming friendships with people who could get me out of my shell. We actually went through a lot together, navigating some pretty serious stuff as kids. But our world felt impenetrable in its mutual support, optimism, and our tear-dried paper fortune teller promises, games of MASH that had you one day in a mansion and not a shack. My friends Emily, Hyla, and Morgan were my entire world, along with my best friend down the street in a different grade, Elise. Between the four of them and the other neighborhood friends who came and went, everything I needed and everything I learned about life was a bike ride away, and likely learned at a sleepover on a trundle bed. If she doesn't have a chapter about turning into a witch after watching The Craft, I'm disappointed. I guess we'll see, Claire. We shall see. Speaking of MASH, before reminiscing, I never really thought about how our activities at sleepovers or slumber parties orbited a similar theme, trying to predict the future, probably to ease the anxiety of life's unpredictability. I guess planning your future as a child starts magically and then evolves into being more formulaic. Even before we looked at the Oracle-type games, if you start wishing upon a star and blowing out candles, and I dreamed of Genie, too. When I started watching Nick at Night, it coincided with my Aladdin phase. It isn't funny that wish-making canon is not to tell anyone your wish or it won't come true, only to grow up and be told that our lack of success is because we should have been shouting our wishes into the universe, according to the law of attraction. Though, I'm willing to bet some of the most prominent playground jinx truthers now sell manifesting courses. The juice from the game Concentrate was a prediction of how you die. A magic 8-ball was the authority for yes-no questions, and a Ouija board could share messages from beyond. And MASH could predict your fate for whom you'd marry and how many kids you'd have. Although MASH was somewhat realistic in setting us up for the experience of feeling like our success is often limited to who we marry, what house we live in, what car we drive, how many kids we have, and what our job is. Even if the specifics were off, the most telling foreshadowing device of all was that we already felt the pressure of figuring these things out long before we ever needed to, and sought formulas early for how we could be a little more sure we'd fulfilled the already high, albeit narrow, expectations the world had for us as young women. And the way it ends was accurate in how it feels to navigate personal milestones. Playing the game or in life, either way, you spiral. The final counting of the rings from your friend drawing the spiral until you told them to stop is similar to the anxiety I'd feel at restaurants when having cracked pepper or rotary parmesan grated onto my dish. To this day, when someone says, "Tell me when to stop," I think of the MASH spiral and feeling of being 1 second away from your missed fate or over-seasoned food. While reminiscing, I was trying to figure out why my childhood memories are mostly from sleepovers. Beyond makeshift Myers-Briggs and early feelings of anxiety in a sleeping bag or developing my taste for the finer things, I probably wished for during witchy rituals. These gatherings meant so much more to me than that. I couldn't put my finger on why I wanted to recall them in elaborate detail, but when I mentioned now and then in passing, I felt a lump in my throat that I tried to ignore, but it kept coming back. Does even the thought of now and then make anyone else feel the need to take a 40-minute nap? It makes me so emotional, but it isn't just about being reminded of the hopeful and complex innocence of girlhood scored by bicycle banana seat battle cries and knock 3 times. My emotional response made it clear to me why I care so much about these gatherings. They were our treehouse. Suddenly, how the movie ends hits differently. When Samantha says the treehouse was supposed to bring us more independence, but what that summer actually brought was independence from each other. When you watch Now and Then with friends at a sleepover, your takeaway wasn't the melancholical and inevitable growing apart. Instead, you dug through the final kernels of the popcorn bowl, looking for the last buttery piece while you searched aloud for all the reasons the moral of the movie would never apply to you and your friends. As the VCR played the last of the credits, you tried to give your future selves more credit, and the questions, "Well, they grew apart, but we never will, right?" are knocked down 3 times by your 3 best friends, quickly achieving the consensus. Now and Then is a story about them, but that would never be the 4 of us. Inevitably, everyone goes their separate ways and hopefully comes back together if you're lucky. I'm still good friends with these women, but their friendship makes me wish there was a word for platonic soulmates. But it couldn't be more true that after you're sleepover aged, everyone's life goes in drastically different ways. Communication ebbs and flows between weeks and months, where everyone's independence is the reason being unreachable teeters on the cusp of eventually falling out of touch entirely. But I think the thing that makes me teary-eyed is how female bonding rituals shapeshift over time. And even though they evolve to support one another depending on the life stage, things are never quite the same. The thing you didn't realize then, but you do now, is that adults don't have 36 free hours between Friday evening and Sunday morning where they can leave their house, get no sleep, cast spells, and tell each other their deepest secrets. It's really interesting because I often, that's really funny. Yeah, Amanda, I believe that. But I do think that's interesting because I think that the thing that we've created is kind of like a 24-hour sleepover because we have a chat. So everyone's just constantly like, you know, there. And so it is really interesting what she's talking about, that you like lose touch with people, but in some weird ways, social media has allowed for people to like regain that. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I've thought about that since like the early days of the slime community. I've always had a lot of female friends in the slime community that made a really big difference, even as far back as like June of 2017. And it is very interesting. It does feel a little bit like the group that you'd invite to the sleepover kind of thing. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. Sunday morning, where they can leave their district. Okay. And you long for when your attention wasn't divided and time wasn't about how well you could optimize it, when it was a lot more simple. Time spent together was time well spent. Back in the daybed, we didn't know enough about what could go wrong to indulge our neuroses. We mostly relished in the joy of possibility, or when in doubt, a little black magic. Even more magical than the spells we tried to cast was the feeling of being in an age where you have nowhere to be, no one telling you who to be, and if ever lost, your confidence could be found again within those 4 walls. While writing this book, I kept wondering what happened in my head between now and back in the daybed. It's interesting how much things change when outside forces like technology or church or boys or grades start to slowly poke holes in your inflatable dreams that once made you feel uplifted. But it makes me even more grateful for these shared moments early on and the luxury of naivete that allowed us to exist in a state of mutual support that tinted life's unknowns with hopefulness more than helplessness. Sometimes when we get together now, we laugh about how seriously we took ourselves. But that's the thing about girlhood. You and your friends have to take yourself seriously because no one else will. We have to keep our emotional behavior to diary pages and fangirl in private, performing at sleepovers on our trundle stages because it felt like the rest of the world worked overtime to remind us that girlish things were inherently unserious. But there are a few eras of my life that were as seriously impactful as the confidence I found during these nights that bled into mornings, beneath stuffed animal hammocks and under the warm handmade Afghans, giggling with every daybed or pull-out sofa creak as we pretended to be asleep. Even though I created the UANC to get people to stay awake, I guess the joke's on me. It didn't matter when we went to bed. We were already living the dream. Aww, that's very sweet. Very sweet. There's a lot of fun to be had here. Lots of fun. Y'all, I have an interview from right. Oh, what is it, Claire? Do you not want to talk about it because you don't want to jinx it, or do you want to tell us what it is? That would be fun. Is there anything we could do to help? Will you keep slime under the desk to make I never get coffee to sleepover because I always think everyone hates me? Oh, Shelly, that's not true though. I'm over here not allowing sleepovers. Well, your kids are a little young for sleepovers, Becca. HR consultant at a business financial group. That sounds hideous. No, I'm kidding. I hope you get it, but that sounds like I would throw myself off a cliff if I had that job. But I'm glad it's your dream job, and I want this for you, and I will manifest with you all day that you're going to get it. It takes all kinds. It takes all kinds. God, I'm glad that you want to do it, because I tell you what, I could not. Maybe never. I don't trust people. Too many bad stories from people I know. That's why my mom always had the sleepovers at our house, Becca, for that exact reason, so that she could be, yeah, we will all manifest it for you, Claire. My mom did not let me go to very many people's houses for sleepovers for the same reason I think you're assuming, Becca, but she did let people come over to our house for sleepovers. She always let me have kids over. She didn't really let me go to other people's houses. I have a phone screen for tomorrow, and I've gotten 2 rejections this week. Ugh. The job market's hard right now, though, guys. There's like a lot of layoffs happening. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's fine then, Becca. I mean, as long as they're still getting to have that experience, I don't think it matters where. You know, you just be the house where it happens. That's what Catherine said, too. Catherine was like, because Catherine lives across the street from what will be Zoe's school, she's like, we'll be the hangout house, and then I'll always get to see my kid. You know? She's like, I'm going to tell Zoe she can always invite her friends over. It can be the safe space. Yeah. Same Monica, I've never stayed at other houses, but kids love him. Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't see any issue with that. It gives you the peace of mind and it gives them the experience. They don't, whatevs. The only places we really went to sleepovers were our cousins' houses. We all had twin cousins, and so we had a lot of cousin sleepovers, but I think that's different also, you know. Yeah, horrible in tech with all the tech. I know. Our house was always the hangout house. It was the best. Yeah. It also makes it easy for you. You don't have to wonder about what you're going to pack and all that stuff. We're the Nerf slime house. Who wouldn't want to come here? Exactly. Yeah. We had a swing set and a giant trampoline. That's the one you want to be at. That's what she was just saying. She was like, who's going to the trampoline house? My house is the hangout house for my kids. Yeah. I think it's just a comfort thing for a lot of us, you know. We were the hangout house too. A lot of people. I got to go to Autumn's house, but my mom and Autumn's mom were friends, and Autumn's mom was a single mom, which I think makes a big difference. I know that this is going to sound really bad, but my mom was always more comfortable in single mom households than the alternative, I think for obvious reasons, you know. So she was like, yeah, whatever, go to Autumn's house with her mom. It's like, fine, you know, because she was like, meh, what's going to happen there? Yeah, anyway. I had a few kids weren't the nicest. Yeah, that's totally fair, Anya. I can get that. It's a hard road. I had a very small group of friends, so it wasn't like I had like massive. She did have a point. Yeah, no. Yeah, true. Inside trampolines, inside climbing walls, a couple of players outside come here. Exactly. Yeah. Why wouldn't they want to come there, Becca? Yeah. All right. I am going to go eat breakfast and then get back to packing orders. I have 133 orders. Yeah, I only had a few friends at the point. Yeah, same. I have 133 orders left to pack. I might explode. We'll see. I'd like to get them all done before my hair appointment tomorrow. Thank you, Ashley. And don't take the Laura Ashley joke personally. I still haven't gotten an email. No, you haven't, Amanda, because I have to go to the store and buy a box for yours. Or Amanda, I might actually end up just sending yours in 2 pieces so that I can get, because there's about 7 people who I either have to go buy boxes for, or I have to split them into 2 packages. So I might just split them into 2 packages and save myself the torment of going to the store on a rainy day. I hate the rain. I don't like being out in the rain. Rosie, yours will be easy because you are so close that you shipping things to Shira and Anya and Rosie always costs like nothing because they live so close by, you know. Yeah, I should just split it, Amanda. You won't care, right? You won't care that it's going to come in 2 packages. It'll come it's like whatever. No, that's not you. Anya, yours is easy because you're so close by. The thing of it is this, like the farther away someone is, putting it in a non-priority mailer gets more expensive, but it doesn't for people like Rosie, who literally lives like a stone's throw from me. Rosie's packages, no matter how many things she puts in it, are always the same cost because she lives so close that they're just like, whatever. And she always gets it in a day. One day. Like, I'll literally mail it, and the next day Rosie's like, oh my God, I love my slime. I'm like, do you? How did you get it? Did you come into my house and take it? And she's like, what? No, I never said that to her. I'm kidding. The whole order, ruined. Terrible. But yeah, Rosie lives really, really close to me. Almost, actually, I think Rosie and Shira are like tied for distance. Don't cry, Amanda, don't cry. Did you? Anyway, I'm going to try to get all the orders out today. That is the goal. Or like packed up by tonight to take to the post office tomorrow morning. I just want them all to be done. Oh yeah, but Anya, they'll all fit in one thing. So I love you all. You're all amazing. We're going to get it done. I think the reason it's taking a little longer with this run than the last one is, like I said, I told you guys, I'm putting your monthly slimes. No, it won't, Amanda. It won't. It actually costs more to put it. This is the thing. Yes, I did. You did. This is the thing that a lot of people don't understand. Putting things in 2 priority mailers. You didn't realize what until after. Putting things in 2 priority mailers is about $16, but if you get slime that is over 3 pounds and you live across the country, it will be like $30, which is so stupid, right? Because you could put it in 2 mailers and only pay $16. You know what I mean? Lisa was modding her own chat. and got filtered, so I'm gonna That's funny. It's funny. It's funny, but also not funny, right? I don't like that for her. Anyway, I ordered 5 slimes, so I should have. No, you shouldn't have. No, Rosie, you'll be fine. Literally. I think I've told you guys, I if there's any overage, which, Rosie, there might be in your case this time, I always refund it. I think you guys will probably see that. Like, sometimes I'll look and someone has just ordered like 2 or 3 2.5 ounces and they paid like they had 3 full slimes, and that's way too much money. It definitely does not cost that much, because I can ship 3 or 4 2 ounces for like $5, but I can't ship 3 or 4 8 ounces for $5. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why I want to get the site with the numbers in it. Oh man. You know what I might do? I might just weigh all the slimes and then pay someone to put it into the website. No, you definitely didn't, Rosie. I should overpay on shipping, pay you back over several years. Oh, please. Don't even think about it. Yeah. I'll have someone else put the weights in for me. I can do the website stuff. You should, Shira. You should do it. Shira, if you weren't broken right now, new nails tomorrow, no, new hair tomorrow. If you weren't broken right now, I would literally have you come and weigh them right now while there's like actually slimes here. But I'm gonna get them all packed up today anyway. Anyway, I'm manifesting that. I'm manifesting being done with all of this before my hair appointment tomorrow. All the slimes will be out before my hair appointment. Manifesting it, which means I have to go, because if I don't go, yes, happy birthday to Becca tomorrow. I hurt my hand on packing materials yesterday, guys. Do you see that? It's a good thing I'm not making slime, because I would definitely have to wear gloves, because look at all these little cutsies. Terrible. Terrible. It's because I've been triple packing things. So what I did, I'm going to tell you guys this right now. If anything breaks in shipping, I'm going to be so pissed, because what I did is I put the slimes in the bubble wrap bag, and then I wrapped them in that crepe paper egg carton stuff, and then I put it in a bag, and then I put it in another bag. If it breaks, I will literally throw them out the window. Like, at this point, there's nothing more I can do, because nothing more will fit in. They won't fit in the bag with any more packing material. Like, that's the thing. I will riot too, Amanda. Like, I will be so upset if any of them break after how much effort I put into packing these. Like this is the thing that you guys don't understand. When I used to make slime, drone deliveries next, yeah. When I made slime in like 2017, 2018, I put everything in one of those bubble bags that you guys get my slimes in, and then in the mailer, nothing else. Never had breaks. So either they're making the jars weaker, or the post office getting rougher. I've never had broken slime from you yet. Thank goodness. That means you have nice postal people along the way. We can share an Uber. That's funny. Take Lyft. All right. Anyway, I'm going to go mostly against grocery prices, but I'll take my rage out against UPS instead. Yeah, it's all got to be interconnected somewhere, right? I think. I don't know. Anyway, I will see you all later. Maybe I'll pop on later for a little body double if I am mentally stable enough to do so.